Hello everybody, welcome to Next IS. Today, 14th of January 2026, an auspicious day of Makar Sankranti. I wish you all a very happy Makar Sankranti. And let's proceed with the daily news analysis. So these are a few articles today mentioned in the prominent newspapers. Okay, so let us start with the first news article. So there is this small institution called as Bloomberg. You might have heard about it. Okay, and it has recently deferred the inclusion of Indian government bonds into the global aggregate index. Okay, so now see, these indexes are nothing but just like a ranking list or something like that. Okay, so whenever a government bond is entered into this list, you will see that the quality of the bond is good. Okay, so now the Bloomberg, whenever it publishes this list, it takes into consideration of a few factors, and whenever these factors are not met, okay, you will see that it will exclude a particular bond from the list. Okay, so now what has happened? Now the Bloomberg Index Services Limited has deferred the inclusion of the Indian government bond into the list index. Okay, and this usually what happens is that when you need to understand what happens when a particular bond is entered into the list and when it is taken out of the list. So it is said that it would provide another update in the mid of 2026 primarily, while the usual perception is that India's bond market or India's growth trajectory is seeing a very good trend, but the exclusion of the government bond from such important list would actually decrease the confidence of investments. Okay, so what are the repercussions and everything, we will see about it. Okay, so India's bonds have already been included in the bond market indexes such as JP Morgan, Bloomberg Emerging and FTSE Russell EM Bond Index. Okay, so these are already there. So what is important for us is that we need to understand what are these basics. Okay, primarily see, bonds are nothing but debt instruments. Okay, bonds are nothing but the debt instruments, and you might have read in your primary economy. Okay, so what is a bond, what is debenture? Okay, so you need to brush up all these things because UPSC will definitely ask questions on this. Okay, so now these bond indices, actually the benchmarks are tracked by the large global funds, okay, such as these are tracked by the large global funds. Okay, and these funds invest passively according to the country weight and index composition. Now inclusion leads to an automatical stable capital inflows. Okay, and one of the Bloomberg is one of the largest global fixed income benchmark. Okay, so whoever, for example, I'm an investor from outside, okay, and I want to invest in your market, in your government bond market. So now I will see what is the rating, just like if we are going on to some e-commerce website. Okay, and then we will see that what is the rating of this product. Similarly, here these are a few indices where you will go and see and you will check the authenticity. Okay, इसमें इतना अच्छा रेटिंग है, उसमें उतना अच्छा रेटिंग है, जिसमें भी अच्छा रेटिंग मिल गया आपको, उस रेटिंग के हिसाब से आप क्या करेंगे कि हाँ, इसके ऊपर मैं ट्रस्ट कर सकता हूँ, इसके ऊपर मैं जाके इन्वेस्ट कर सकता हूँ बोल के हम सोच सकते हैं. सो दिस इज वन ऑफ दोस थिंग्स. ओके, सो नाउ व्हाट इट कवर्स द गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स, इन्वेस्टमेंट ग्रेड बॉन्ड्स. Okay, and inclusion would significantly deepen the India's debt market. Okay, so now so why actually these inclusion actually matters is that firstly it will regulate the capital inflows, and estimated passive inflows would be around 20 to 25 billion over a few months. Okay, how it will help? It will help in the fiscal deficit. It help in the infrastructure spending. Okay, now see, now whenever a government issues a bond, now what will happen is that these bonds are bought, and now based on the returns of that bond, the investor would be profited. And how the government would profit? The government would take in these bonds, and these bonds would be used for the development. Okay, now, so it would actually lower the borrowing cost. Okay, so we would naturally, if we want money for developing roads or something, so we will issue a government bond. Okay, government bond on infrastructural development, and some investor would buy it. Okay, so now this will when the investor will buy it, we will get the money and we will invest in it, and whatever returns we have, and at the time of maturity, the investor will get his money back. Okay, so now higher the demand, higher the bond price, and lower the yield. Then this is very important factor, where firstly, now demand is higher bond price, and now whenever the high bond price is there, the yield will be less. Yield will be less. Now will you ask me, sir, why? Okay, so whenever a bond price will increase, okay, now whenever the bond demand will increase, now what will happen? The bond price will increase, because there is more demand, more people will come. So now whenever the bond price will increase, now you will see that the base price at which it is given, and to the maximum price that the returns you will get, the margin will slowly starts decreasing. Okay, and this is the reason why you will see that the yields will be less. Okay, now what will happen in the global integration of our bonds is that now more the countries start investing in our bonds, the more you will see that the market maturity and policy credibility, and it strengthens the Indian financial market strength. Okay, now what are the reasons why the Bloomberg actually deferred the status of Indian government bonds? Okay, so first one is the operational and infrastructural issues. Okay, there was issues with respect to settlement, accessibility, and consistency of the regulatory treatment. Okay, and also recently we saw that the capital flow into India was reducing. Okay, and next is the macroeconomic pressures such as rising global interest rates. So whenever you see that the global interest rates are more, for example, you will see the US has started giving more bond yields. Okay, it has given the whenever it starts the policy of federal tapering and quantitative easing. Okay, it is nothing but a fancy name for the repo rate and reverse repo rate reducing. Okay, so whenever such instances happen, how the Indian market responds is that, now as an investor, I would want more money, I would want good returns. So what I will do, here I am getting less, but in US market I am getting more. And also you will see that the regulatory issues are very high in the India, and regulatory issues are not at all high in the USA. So what I will do, I will not at all think twice, and I will directly go and invest in the US money market. Okay, so yeah, so like this. So, and also we saw that the US has been very notorious with respect to implementation of the current tariffs. Okay, so the tariffs have been repeatedly, increasingly being started, and recently with the Iran crisis going on, our very favorite Donald J. Trump has again said that now every country which is in trade with Iran is going to pay us additional of 25% of tariffs. Okay, so now we know that 25% of extra tariffs and 50% of tariffs. So all this has actually affected the business in India. Okay, see, now we are in a globalized era. Okay, in the globalized era, you can't do business in compartment of your own country. Okay, you will have to go global. Okay, the more the demand for your goods and more the trade that you will have and more the cash inflow will come, then only you will be able to do business, and then only the growth will be sustainable. Okay, so yeah, these are the few reasons. And also you see that recently we saw that the rupee has breached the 91 rupees, okay, and it has I think near to 100 it was there, okay. And also RBI has to reduce the volatility of the rupee, RBI has also been intervening open market operations and all those things it has been doing, okay. So next one, the why inclusions matter for India is because recently the capital inflow has passive inflows of 20 to 25 US billion dollars every few months. It will help in fiscal deficit, okay. So sorry. So now recent market trends, okay. Now the net outflows of India were 1.66 lakh crore in 2025. In the debt market, inflow fell sharply, as I told earlier, it was fell sharply to 55,590 crore to 23,480 crore, okay, which is the projection price. So this shows the FDI weakness, and which is only $959, okay. So and also RBI's role in the monetary context. So RBI recently cut the repo rate by 125 basis, and despite rate cuts, the bond yield also again fell by the 25 basis rate, because as I told you earlier, the bond demand whenever they, as the quantitative easing in USA, in India they are cutting the repo rate by almost 125 basis more, okay. So whenever such things happen, the bond yield actually should increase, but it actually reduced, okay. And now whenever there is a reduction in the bond yield, you will not feel that okay, I should invest over here, okay. And also RBI continues the liquidity infusion and FX market intervention, okay. So now why this matters? See, the macroeconomic stability, okay, delay reduces the certainty of the long-term foreign capital, okay. And now I would want to invest in a country where, or invest in a government bond or government instruments which are very reliable to me. Why would I want to invest in such a country which is not reliable? It doesn't make any sense, okay. And also yeah, for the fiscal management, such as raising debt issuance, states to raise 5 lakh crore in the Q4, okay. And also the rupee stability, okay. Now the fewer debt inflows, it will put pressure on the current account financing, okay. So this completes our article. So it is very important for you to understand the cause and effect relations between the for example, now a flow of money, bond yield, okay, according to that the repo rate, reverse repo rate, okay. So all these things are very important, and UPSC has been asking every year couple of questions, okay. So I would want you to just go back and revise your basics, okay. So yeah, this completes our first article. So let's move on to our second article, okay. So the second article is about the Jaishankar Rubio talks and trade to rare minerals and nuclear to defense, okay. So in USA has been the center of the geopolitics right now, okay, and it has recently, I would want to use the word invaded, because technically it is that, and it has ousted the current current president of the Venezuela, okay. And in the recent polity times, I think that it is one of the most geopolitical instance that has happened, okay. And yeah, so and also there is much rift going on between India and the USA right now. We are having little bit strained relations, okay, but you know that India is too big. And recently youngest newly appointed Indian USA ambassador to India has very famously given the statement that there is no other partner in the world as important as India to US, okay. Now it might be a tactic or it might be not, but this statement coming from a ambassador of USA is very important. And also it shows a significant shift with whatever is going on, the diplomatic relationship between India and USA, okay. So Rubio and External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar had a phone call, and what exactly happened in these discussions is this article talks about, and also the Iran issues, Okay, so now US Secretary of the State, who is Rubio, and External Affairs Ministers have had a phone call, and what have they discussed? Firstly, the bilateral trade negotiation, critical and rare minerals, and defense cooperation, and nuclear and clean energy. Okay, and so recently there was a summit which is going to Pax Silica, I guess, Pax Silica, and it was going to be held without India because of the strained relations. USA didn't invite India, firstly. Okay, so but you know that, see, excluding India out of the global value chains would now make no sense at all, and this has been realized by the USA, and now we have been invited to that, and we have also been invited to the critical minerals partnership summit as well. Okay, so now, and both sides have agreed on that, take the talks forward, remain in touch, and explore the possibilities in person. Okay, and also they have actually congratulated India on the passage of the Shanti nuclear bill. You know that India has now opened up the market for the nuclear energy as well. Okay, so USA has congratulated India on that, and the talks followed the talks actually followed the recent US diplomatic outreach to India aimed at repairing the strained relations and deepening the strategic alignment. Okay, so now why these sectors matter? Okay, so see, you believe it or not, or you acknowledge it or not, USA is very important to India, and India is also very important to US. Okay, all the major corporates have one of the biggest campuses in India. For example, Microsoft has the biggest campus in India. Apple, it has moved 90% of the manufacturing to India, and now all the 99% of diamond actually goes through India. Okay, and also the market that we have. We are the largest populous country, and we are right now exactly as Japan has overtaken us. Right now, we are the 4th largest economy again. So now, looking at this, these are metrics. You can't ignore India, and you shouldn't ignore India as well. Okay. Now, that being said, okay. So now, why these sectors important? Firstly, the US-India trade, it exceeds 190 billion, and negotiations are ongoing on for the market access, traffic rationalization, and supply chain resilience. Okay, so whatever the news which is going on, that somebody's ego got hurt and somebody didn't pick the call, or somebody didn't make the call. Okay, that all these things happen on a diplomatic stance, and these are supposed to be not to be discussed in the public, because the diplomatic relations doesn't work that way. But sometimes you have a few leaders who would want to do things in their own way, and we see the president of USA right now is on that stance. Okay, but nevertheless, diplomatic relations are always diplomatic. Okay, and there is an element of secrecy, and there is an element of trust which is always involved in these. Okay, now that being said, so the critical rare minerals, I would want you to go back and see what are these critical and rare earth minerals. See, these are not rare. These are not rare. Okay, if UPSC gives a statement stating that the rare earth metals are found very rarely in the world, then it is not true at all. Okay, these are for the critical and newly emerging technologies for that. For example, EV, semiconductor, defense electronics, and renewable energy. And in this, the China actually dominates the global supply because it has the first mover's advantage, and also it has the largest reserves, one of the largest reserves, because of its vast land. Okay, now, and India and USA want the China +1 diversification. First of all, the nuclear energy. Okay, India has aimed for the net zero by 2070, and Shanti bill has recently seen a reform orientation. And also now India and US defense trade is greater than 220 billion, and the co-development, co-production, and advanced platforms and strategic investments have been there already. And now Indo-Pacific alignment, obviously the Sagar initiative and the Quad and everything is already there. And also we have the protective partnership approach, where Jaishankar described the talks as the good conversation and Rubio termed this as a positive call. It indicates the continuity in the political transition. And next is other issues with respect to, see, this was the call which is going on. I think this was more or less courtesy engagement, because the secretary has, US secretary has called, and usually the newly appointed ambassador is there. So these talks are going on right now, but unless and until we sign a particular deal with USA, okay, and recently when the Chancellor of Germany came to India, we have made a very good progress with Germany, where the relaxations with respect to visas and all those things, and also the trade, there is a very high possibility that we will be making a very good trade deal with Germany. Okay, in the same lines. Now, now that being said, now again, Iran is at the center, where there are global protests going on here and there, right, left, and center. And it is, see, the official estimate is that only 2,000 protesters have been killed or dead or whatever. But the official is that, but non-officially it might be more. And now it is Iran has gone through a revolution in 1970s, and after that it has been under a theocratic dictatorship till now. Theocratic dictatorship. Okay, theocracy is where the religious leaders actually rule the country. Okay, and Iran is ruled by its supreme leader Khamenei. Okay, so, and the protests are going on, and President of USA has said that help is on. He tweeted said that his tweet said that help is on the way. Protesters keep protesting and take over your institutions. Okay, so on a diplomatic stance, on a position where somebody is the president of the most powerful country in the world, now saying such lines is not according to the decorum, maintaining the decorum, but sometimes some leaders will be there like that. Okay, now irrespective of that, now he has also announced the 25 Iran tariff, where US has warned that 25% tariff on the countries trading with Iran. Okay, and again we have now considerable amount of oil trade we have with Iran. Okay, so that might be impacted also. Okay, now why this matters for India? Because, see, first of all, strategic autonomy. Okay, so now with whom we want to get our trade with, and how we want to do the trade should be decided bilaterally, or some multilateral institutions which have given some guidelines. But here we see that it is mandated by a country which holds a considerable amount of power. Okay, now this is the bland display of power. Okay, not necessarily it can so it shows that okay, we are the D countries in the world. Okay, now the strategic autonomy point is very important. Okay, and now the economic security, obviously access to critical minerals, and also the trade talks. Okay, and now the energy transition, and now the nuclear cooperation complements the renewable green energy, green hydrogen energy, and also this strengthens the low carbon growth pathway, and also geopolitical balancing. Okay, now India must actually engage with USA while managing its ties with the Iran. Okay, and it also preserves the West Asia's interest, reflecting the multi-alignment nature of India. Okay, so now this completes our second article. Okay, so USA again is in news for various reasons, and for prelims, what is important is that last time UPSC has asked which borders share is the longest, and in that Mexico and USA was the answer. And so you have to see which countries actually border Iran this time. Okay, there is a high probability in that Iran might be asked. Okay, Let's move on to our next article. So the next article is that after 2 decades, RBI proposes to reopen the urban cooperative banks licenses, favoring the large credit societies. Okay, so what exactly happened? So nearly for 20 years, the Reserve Bank of India has proposed, after 20 years of hiatus, it has opened the licensing window for the urban cooperative banks. However, proposal favors large and well-run credit societies, okay, rather than the small and fragmented one. Okay, so why it is actually stopped? Because in the mid 2000s, due to weak governance, financial mismanagement, and frequent bank failures, okay, and the proposals came amid the consolidation in the UCB sector and the improved financial health, and RBI has emphasized that the strong governance and proven financial track record and robust capital adequacy. Okay, so this is the news right now. Okay, so now let's get on to the basics. So what are urban cooperative banks? See, these are the financial institutions which are owned by the members. Okay, so now cooperative, matlab we are operating it on our own. Okay, so now you and I, like this 4-5 of us who are rich, what we do is we pool in our money, and what we do is we try to give credit for each other, and we try to lend the money to the others as well. Okay, so now here RBI under the Banking Regulation Act of 1949 governs these institution, okay, and it is under the dual governance of the state government and the RBI. Okay, so now it provides deposits, loans, and payment services. Okay, now why were the licenses frozen? Okay, the licenses were frozen due to the chronic problems in the 2010s, where the most number of the urban cooperative banks were failing due to multiple reasons, such as very high NPAs, okay, very high NPAs, primarily very high NPAs, and poor risk management and weak professional governance and frequent failures such as PMC bank crisis, which was very much in the news. Okay, so now what RBI did? Okay, first of all, let us consolidate whatever is there and let us freeze the licenses altogether, so that these money oriented frauds doesn't happen. But many UCBs turned financially unsound, okay, and RBI noted that the hundreds of UCBs became financially unavailable, and weak banks were merged, liquidated, and placed under the restrictions. Okay, and this sector saw the reduction in the number and increase in the average size, okay, because of all the consolidation. Okay, now governance risk. Okay, RBI concerns are primarily the lack of professional management. Okay, there is no recruitment on all those things, and poor internal controls and related party lendings. Okay, now too much of retipism would be there, and too much of nepotism would be there, where I am lending only to the people which I know, whom I know, and what I will do is that I will not check whatever the credentials that are actually required, and I will not maintain. See, these are not governed by the Basel III norms, and the Basel III norms would say that the particular amount of a CRAR ratio should be there, and 81 bonds, and so good rating oriented capital should be there with you. Okay, that those things are not exactly managed by these, and also there is a structural issue such as the cooperative nature, which is democratic control, but often results in the populist lending and poor credit appraisal. Okay, so now RBI's new thinking. Why now? See, we need money to be flowing everywhere, so that we can the investment should come, the spending should be there, and also the capital investment should be there, and the employment. Again, the more you put money makes money. Okay, to simply put it. Okay, now the sector consolidation, we have already discussed about it, and next one is the improved financial metrics such as I told already, asset quality, profitability, and capital adequacy. And next is there is also need for the financial inclusion, and UCPs play a crucial role in it. Okay, now urban cooperative banks, what they do is that they will give the credit for the MSMEs, they will give the credit for the localized banking, and also they will help in the cooperative federalism. Okay, now what are the key features? Now selective licensing, only the large credit scores, only the large credit societies and also stricter conditions, okay, minimum capital requirements, proven track record, fit and proper, okay, and also the regulatory amendments such as proposed changes in the regulation act, and RBI has acknowledged that there would be legal challenges, okay. Now let us see the data which it has said that as of March 2025, there are around 1,457 UCBs, of which the Tier 1 and Tier 2 are so and so, and the smaller UCBs have high asset quality stress and low profitability. It indicates the concentration of the strength in the fewer banks. Okay. Now, why does this matter? This matters because there should be banking stability. Okay. Selective licensing avoids the moral hazard and repetitive past failures. And also, next one is the financial inclusion, and next one is the cooperative federalism. And these all things we have already discussed. And now, what is the risk? Risk is that excluding small societies may reduce the grassroots participation. See, why we are doing this? Why there are conventional ways of lending, there are conventional ways of banking. Okay, now why we are doing it? So that the decentralization of the banking would happen. Okay, now again here also we have said that with the new norms coming in, we are going only for those banks which are actually in a good size and a big size, and their presence is only in small pockets. Now whom this will benefit? Okay, and but we as a country which is aspiring, as a country where the poverty is more, as a country which is going through the process of development, you would require the deeper penetration and deeper decentralization. Okay, now when these things are not there, then there will be an issue, and so this is one of the risks. Okay, so yeah, now we have holistically covered this article. Okay, so the UPSC would definitely ask a few questions, and this is in the past also it has asked questions on banking, and money and banking is a very big chapter, and it is very important pillar in the economy. Okay, so try to go back and revise this, and urban cooperative bank, rural cooperative bank, okay, and who governs this, and all those things can be revised. Okay, please revise that. Okay, this completes our article. Now let's move on to the next article. So Supreme Court has given a split verdict. Okay, split verdict matlab ki half of the judges have taken on the one side and half of the judges have taken on the other side. So what is this article about? Now there is a provision in the Prevention of Corruption Act. Okay, I think it is section 17A, okay, of the Prevention of Corruption Act 1998. In that there is a provision: you cannot prosecute a public servant without prior inquiry, without prior permission from the other officials. And now this has certain ramifications, and based on that ramifications, there were two judges, and these two judges have given a split verdict. One has sided with it ki haan, prosecution hona chahiye, and other said that ki no, this would remove the blanket immunity of a civil servant, and they cannot do their job properly. Okay, so now, as I said already, as I've discussed already, now the official capacity decisions that the public servant makes would be affected. There is a mandate in the Prevention of Corruption Act, section 17A. Mandate is a prior sanction before any inquiry or any investigation on alleged corruption by a public servant. Okay, so now there are two divergent opinions. First opinion is by Justice B.V. Nagaratna, who held that the section 17 is unconstitutional and it found violative of the article 14 of equality before right to equality. Okay, and next is the Justice K.V. Vishwanath. He held that he upheld the provision, saying that they emphasize the need to protect the honest officer from the frivolous complaint. Okay, due to this, now the verdict has been passed on to the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court. Okay, where the Supreme Court will go for the 5-judge bench. Again, it is not constitutional bench. It has gone for the it is gone for the three-judge bench. It is gone for the 3-judge bench. Okay, the constitutional bench will have minimum of 5 judges. Okay, Now, so let us see the basics of it. Now, where did we find the origin of PCA? This particular section was amended in 2018, okay, which requires the prior approval of the competent authority before registering the FIR, starting the investigation and conducting an inquiry, and it applies to the decisions taken in discharge of the official functions in policy or administrative matters. Okay. Now, what is the objective? Objective is to first we'll have to protect the officers. Why? Because they are if they are doing any of course there is a widespread view that a few officers are actually making corruption and all those things, but there will be honest officers, okay, and who are actually doing work, and that would create a big issue for the corrupt politicians. Okay, now what these corrupt politicians do? Okay, इसके ऊपर हम केस कर देते हैं, ओके, केस कर देते हैं. केस करने के बाद क्या होगा, इनके ऊपर मुकदमा चलेगा and all those things will happen, and now this will lead to the harassment of the particular officer. Okay, and now with the fear of this officer, what he will do? No, अरे अगर मैं कुछ करूँगा तो मुझे अंदर भेज देंगे लोग, मेरे ऊपर कंप्लेंट डाल देंगे, मेरे ऊपर FIR हो जाएगा, मेरे ऊपर केस हो जाएगा. So what I'll do, I'll just follow whatever is there, and this will lead to an officer being a minimalist guy. Okay, now, and because of that only now this particular amendment was done. Okay, now let us see the detailed judicial reasoning. Now, Vishwanath, who upheld the section 17A, said that there is a possibility of misuse. Okay, and now honest officers needs a basic assurance that the policy decisions will not lead to the criminal persecution, and with this, without the protection, the officers will adopt a play it safe approach, okay, and balanced approach required in between the protection of the malafide prosecuting the genuine corruption cases only, okay, and suggested a safeguard such as an independent authority of Lokpal or Lokayukta should take the decision and a preliminary inquiry before getting the sanctions in the decision. Okay, so this was one side. On the other hand, the other side said that see, now for section 17A forecloses even a preliminary inquiry and creates a shield for high ranking officials, okay, and it is based on the nature of duties, and it will create a arbitrariness in the equality. Okay, and now it blindly violates the article 14, which is equal protection of the law, okay, and protects only a high category of civil servants, okay, and it runs against the rule of law, and it runs against the anti-corruption law. Okay, so now this has been stated, and now the protection of the honest officer is not a valid constitutional justification, is what the Justice Nagananda says. Okay, now what are the core constitutional and governance issues over here? First is the upholding the rule of law. Next one is article 14, which is equality before law. So you and I, if I am doing corruption, or you are doing corruption, or if you are doing something wrong, or I am doing something wrong, everybody has to be treated equally. Unless and until you treat equally, the progress won't. Whatever the law that we have enacted is will not find its true soul. Okay, so and also the separation of the powers. Okay, and executive sanctioning control, where controlling the police, vigilance officers, CBI and Lokpal investigations. Okay, and also now accountability versus efficiency. See, now accountable, which means that I am responsible for whatever the acts that I am doing, simply. Okay, and now efficiency is that how well I am doing my work. Okay, now if I am being held accountable, there is a possibility that on the name of accountability I will be harassed. If I am being efficient, okay, in the name of efficiency I might be doing some wrongdoings. Okay, now again you will have to balance both of these. Okay, now why this judgment matters? Because it affects the anti-corruption agencies, vigilance machinery, and also the bureaucratic behavior, which is too much protection will lead to impunity, and too little protection will lead to the decision paralysis. Okay, I will think, okay, आगे क्या करना क्या नहीं करना है बोल के. And now, so now the prior so the standard of prior jurisprudence, okay, it has to be used no matter what, and also we have to protect the honest officers no matter what. Okay, now that being said, you can't have a blanket impunity. Okay, when a particular person is being, when a particular civil servant is being accused of something, now you will have to do the preliminary inquiry, that is for sure. Okay, so we need to find a middle way right now, okay, where the efficiency and accountability should be balanced, and the honest officers have to be protected and corrupt officers have to be punished. Okay, now this is a very important article. You can use this in essay, ethics, and obviously section 17a is there discussed over here, and you might actually find a prelims question in this as well. Okay, now this completes our article. Let's move on to our next article. So this is one of the interesting articles, and there the data provided in this was very intriguing, and the relation between the technology and environment is very good in this. Okay, so I picked this article for the discussion today. Okay, so now India must focus on AI and its environmental impact. Okay, so one side we are going for the advancement of the technology, okay, which is artificial intelligence. We are using it in healthcare, we are using it in governance, agriculture, finance. However, its environmental impact is not at all being taken care. Okay, now the OECD working paper titled Measuring the Environmental Impact on Artificial Intelligence, Compute and Applications, it highlights that the AI development has a significant environmental cost, and these costs exacerbate the climate change challenges, and the global internet communications technology industry, okay, including hardware and software, contributes to the 1.8 to 2.5% of the global emissions. Okay, so make sure you note this data. Okay, and some estimate place it as high as 3.9%. Okay, around 3.9%. 3.9%, you will see that the global greenhouse gas emissions are through the ICT industry. Okay, so now first let us see the what are the compute intensive nature of the AI. So AI models, especially the LLMs, they require high-end technology, high-end CPUs, GPUs. Okay, and they require the normal laptops and all those things won't work. Okay, and I recently saw a case where one of my friends were actually using the computer, and they were doing some high-end AI processing, and that computer actually started heating up. Though it was a very high-end computer, it started heating up, and eventually they had to lose that computer because it started showing the signs of getting blast or something like that. Okay, so with state strategy, these require continuous server uptime and everything. Okay, and this is one of the very good data you can actually see that. Now we search on Google. Now we are searching on ChatGPT. So I know many of my mentees and many of my friends as well who are treating ChatGPT as their friend. Okay, where they ask random questions to the ChatGPT, and they get random answers from them. And some person has talked to me like this, what should I do? Some person has talked to me like that, what should I do? And today I am having stomachache, I have eaten so and so, so what should I do? So these sorts of trivial questions are also they are asking. Okay, so obviously these are supposed to be the conversation between two normal people, but now the technology has come in. Okay, I'm not saying this is any bad thing, but again, see, human to human, we are, end of the day, we are a social animal. We are a social animal, and we need our social belongingness with the people. And now if that is completely being replaced by technology, then I don't think it is the right way. Okay, fine. Now see that the ChatGPT search and Google search, you will see there is a 10% more energy requirement for each Google ChatGPT query, and training a single AI model would require around 3 lakh to 626,000 kg of CO2, which is which is the equivalent to the emissions of 5 cars in their lifetime. Okay, now this is the data. Okay, now water consumption is there, and UNEP has actually raised the concern, stating that AI servers may consume some around 6.6 billion cubic meters of water by 27, and this raises the concern about the water scarcity. Okay, and also the data transparency. Now, how much carbon footprint a single AI model, or how much carbon emission that this particular AI model is providing or costing, is actually not done properly, and there is a lack of transparency. Okay, because it is an emerging technology right now. Right now, we don't have the particular data. Whatever we are having is rough estimates. Okay, because it's not been a decade, or it's not been 5 years that we are totally into this technology. Okay, and now, for example, now a Google report in 2025 claimed that the AI prompt consumes only 0.25 watt, but it was proved to be more than that. Okay, and now what is the impact on the environment? Again, climate change, water stress, and land use. Okay, land use because of the e-waste. Okay, these two we have already discussed. Okay, now in the land use, so all the semiconductors, hardware, all those things we get, now they are first of all their disposal. Okay, the protocols and SOPs that are supposed to be followed for the disposal of these things are not being followed, right? And in India it is much more, and you know that the Maharashtra tops in India with respect to the e-waste. Okay, and only 10 to 15% of the e-waste is actually managed through the right SOPs. Okay, right. And now the global response in India, UNESCO Global Initiative, it recommends the ethics of artificial intelligence, where the environmental impact have to be recognized. And EU and USA use Artificial Intelligence Act and EU's resolution on the harmonizing the AI rules, and focus includes the sustainability and environment impact. Okay, again, what does India say? India's discussion for the focus mainly on the innovation, economic growth, AI for the social good, but the environmental factor is largely ignored, because again, now we are an emerging country and this is an emerging technology, and now we are looking for the faster adoption. Okay, and now the repercussions usually, though the impact assessment has to be done prior to introduction of any technology and development of any technology, but we see that it is not being followed. Okay, and now what is the policy suggestions? Okay, firstly, think tank, civil companies, civil societies, and tech companies have to be included, and also data check the greenhouse gas emissions, water consumption, land consumption, and all those pattern changes, and also have to be taken care of, and also expand the AI environment impact assessment program, assessment framework to the AI algorithms, data centers, and high compute activities, and they make the AI impact assessment mandatory. Okay, so these all things have to be followed. Okay, and also now we need to disclose the standards, such as the government can mandate the environment impact disclosure for the AI. Okay, through the SEBI or Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and this is based on the EU's Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Okay, and where it mandates that the emissions from the data centers, high-end compute activities, and LLM training impact. Okay, and also the sustainable AI practices are improve the AI sufficiency and mandatory AI specific environmental reporting, and treat AI as a tool for sustainability, not just for the growth. Okay, and also we need to have the very important one is that we rather than training every AI model separately, we can train we can produce the models which have already been trained. Okay, yeah, so why does it matter? Again, for the economic development, for the ethical governance, and for the environmental impact, because we are looking for the 2070 to be our the net zero. Okay, unless and until now AI has started emerging into every part of our life, almost every part of our life, and soon we will see that AI being used everywhere. Okay, now unless and until you take its impact and assessment, you are making the grand goals of achieving net zero by 2070 would be futile exercise. Okay, so yeah, this completes our article. Okay, this is very I would say intriguing and interesting article. Okay, so I never knew that the actually energy consumption with respect to Google and the ChatGPT search is actually 10 times more. Okay, so yeah, this completes our article. Now let's move on to the next article. So the next article is again the very interesting. Okay, so what is the source code, and is actually government looking for asking these source code to the cell phone manufacturing companies. Okay, so now Reuters have reported that the government of India was contemplating on requirement for the smartphones manufacturer to share the source code, keep the code open for the review, and notify the government before pushing for any major software update. Okay, and we would see what exactly is the source code in the next couple of slides. But this is actually the news. But the government has said that no, there is nothing confirmed yet. Okay, and we have not yet passed any circular. Okay, so bulk it is there, but somewhere it becomes important for us to know what exactly is the source code and why it matters. Okay, so the source code is nothing but the human readable instructions written by the programmers. It forms the core logic of the operating system, applications, and device level firmware. Okay, to simply put it, if the operating system is operating in a particular way, now how it is operating is the code that we write. Okay, so to build on a particular application. Okay, so now what is the source of that, and what exactly is that? If you are giving it to me, then I will be easily able to understand how that is built. Okay, so with respect to governance, with respect to transparency, with respect to privacy, and all those things, it will have major ramifications. Okay, now see, for example, it is not a public particular intellectual property. It is an intellectual property created by some company. Okay, now if you are asking the company to share me whatever is there, whatever source code you have, then probably that wouldn't be in a right taste, because why would a company would want to give a particular source code of a particular product that it has created? Okay, there is a possibility that the data might be breached. There is a possibility that the source code that I am sharing with you, you can sell it to somebody else. Okay, so again, what is important for us is key knowing what exactly is the source code. Okay, now so what a source code actually determines the data access, encryption strength, the surveillance vulnerabilities, and security backdoors, and whoever controls or accesses the source code can potentially control the device itself, as I said already. Okay, now what are the commercial concerns? Is that the source code contains the proprietary intellectual property, for example, as I told already, and now disclosure would read the reverse engineering and loss of competitive advantage which a particular company has. And now the cyber security risk is there, and there is a global precedent. Cyber security risk is that now I am giving you whatever the code that I have built. Okay, now you will find a loopholes in that. There is a high possibility that you can reach through it. Okay, you famously know what is Pegasus and everything. And now security through obscurity is flawed, but uncontrolled transparency is also dangerous. Okay, this is what the line says. And next, there is a global precedent that no major democracy actually mandates full source code disclosure for the consumer devices. Even in the sensitive sectors such as defense, the access is limited and sandboxed. Why? Because now France is actually selling us more than 100 fighter jets. Okay, and now it is denied, blatantly denied, even though it is more than a lakh crore business deal. It is denied the sharing of the source code to us, even though they are going to manufacture it in India. Most of the manufacturing would be done in India, but still it is refused to share the source code. Okay, and here we are seeing that there is a government which wants if it is were to be true, sharing the source code being a major issue. And now The government claims that no final decision has been taken, discussions are exploratory, and consumer interest and national security will guide the outcomes, obviously. Okay, and it may not apply for the smartphones anymore, and the issue is under ministerial consideration. And now, we need to understand what are the regulatory framework. So the Indian Telegraph Act, it forms the basis for the telecom equipment regulation, and also there is a MTCTE framework, mandatory certification for telecom equipment before import or use in India. And also there is Indian telecom security assurance requirement, where the security standards for the telecom equipment, which earlier applied to such as routers, switches and network infrastructure, is now probably extending it to the smartphones. Okay. Now, what is the response? Again, it is said that civil societies have said that it would again not give the right precedence, saying that sharing the source code will make the competitive would lose their the companies would actually lose their competitive advantage. Okay, and now again we need a transparency, public consultation and disclosure, and it is argued that the stakeholder consultation cannot mean closed door meetings with big techs only. Okay, so while in the international dimension we see that no democratic country actually does this sort of source code sharing requirements. Okay, and again the democratic states only relies on the independent audits and bug bounty programs and secure certification labs. Okay, now why this matters? Because the smartphones, they form the critical infrastructure, and these are used by armed forces, bureaucracy and citizens. Okay, so if you want to use it in a, if you want to be shared, then share it. Those things have to be shared in a very what do we say, the closed platform, or only to those very critical and important areas such as armed forces and bureaucracy. Okay, and now the fundamental rights and privacy, Article 21, it will lead to mass surveillance, and the profiling again. Puttaswamy judgment actually states that the right to privacy again is very important. And next, the ease of doing business. And now the regulation, over regulation, again it would hurt the ease of doing business, because right now as I have already said that the most of the smartphone manufacturing is coming to India, and Apple actually in 1 in 5 in the world iPhone would be made in India, and this is a very big achievement for India. Okay, so now such progress that we have made would actually find it's no use, because no use if we are actually going for such over regulation. Okay, so now that being said, this completes our article. I hope this session was very informative to you. Okay, and please get on with the studies, and I hope you have a pleasant day. Thank you so much.